You know what's funny? I thought this conversation with Suzie Betts was going to be all about breast protection. And yes, I learned a heap about that. But that wasn't actually what stayed with me. You know, after every conversation, there's usually one thought that I just keep thinking about long after the microphone's switched off. And over the past 6 to 9 months, I've learned so much. And I feel like there are little takeaways, a saying, a piece of advice, something that I've got from just about every guest. And Suzie's was no exception. With Suzie, it wasn't about the product. It wasn't the awards. And it wasn't even the incredible journey she's been on. It was this, that sometimes the thing you're meant to contribute to the world finds you and not the other way around. Suzie wasn't searching for like a business idea at the time. She wasn't dreaming of becoming an inventor or an entrepreneur. She wasn't trying to build a global company. She was a mum of 3, driving Uber, doing a bit of PR and marketing, and living what most of us would probably describe as a pretty ordinary life. Then one expected moment changed everything for her. Not because she found a lump in her breast, although that was certainly the catalyst, but it was because she asked a question that most people would never have asked. Why? Why did this happen? Why isn't anyone talking about this issue? And why isn't there a better solution? And perhaps, most importantly, what if there was? And that question completely changed the direction of her life. And the more I reflected on our conversation, the more I realized something. Most people aren't waiting necessarily to discover their purpose. Suzie wasn't. She simply couldn't ignore a problem once she'd seen it. And that persistence, that curiosity, that determination to keep asking questions, they were already skills inside her. As she said, she's like a dog with a bone. And I can completely relate to that. I'm a bit the same. And the business simply gave those gifts of hers somewhere to go. One thing she said that really resonated with me, she genuinely thought people would immediately understand why breast protection mattered. It's interesting. I had the same thought when I interviewed a number of my more well-known guests. I was like, yes, this is it. My podcast will now be discovered. I'm away, which didn't quite happen that way. And Dave Hughes actually said he had the same thought after appearing on TV for the first time. He just thought he would instantly then be recognized and his career would just take off. And it didn't happen for him either. But instead of giving up, Suzie discovered that solving the engineering problem was actually easier than convincing people the problem even existed. I wonder how many great ideas never make it into the world because the first response isn't enthusiasm, it's indifference. That takes real courage, I think, to keep going and to go, this hasn't been embraced the way I thought it would, but do you know what? I truly believe in it and I think I love what I'm doing and I feel like it has purpose. I'm going to keep going. But it absolutely takes courage and resilience and grit. I also loved her advice for anyone thinking about starting something. Don't begin with the business. Begin with the problem. Find something that genuinely needs solving. Because if you care deeply enough about the problem, you'll keep going long after the excitement wears off. And it inevitably does, because there's always hard work with something. And I think every person I've spoken to has said, you know, there's so much about building a business or following a passion that requires the dirty work, the stuff you don't love. But if you've got a really clear why and a really clear purpose, it makes it so much easier to keep turning up every day. But perhaps the most human moment in the whole conversation came right near the end. And here's someone who's won international awards, who's partnered with elite sports people, who's working with organisations like the military. Yet when I asked her what her fear was that she'd love to let go of, she said it was driving on freeways. And I loved that because it reminded me that courage isn't about not having fear. It's choosing to keep moving towards what matters despite all the fears we carry. And although they seem unrelated, they would absolutely have an impact on her business and on her work and in the back of your mind, like all fears do. So it's about kind of understanding that we're all flawed in some way, I guess, and then finding ways to manage that. If there's one lesson I'll take from Suzie's story, though, it's this, that maybe discovering what you're meant to do isn't about looking further. Maybe it's about paying closer attention to the problems that we can't walk past, the conversations that we can't stop having about things, the ideas that keep coming back to us, the things that quietly whisper to us maybe, or wake us up through the night. Someone should do something about this, or this there's got to be a better way. Because perhaps that someone could be you. Thanks for joining me on Jules FM. Until next time, more is possible than we think. It begins with one question. What if?